part two. Part one was with Lynn. We gave you a little bit of a recap and then a walk on the outside of the house. But today I want to talk to you about the design level, errors, omissions, etc., likes, dislikes, as well as the primary project, which was the AAC project of our house build here. Again, likes, dislikes, errors, omissions, changes that we would do, but a very shotgun approach to this video, guys. Very first, right out of the gate, the septic tank. Had I known how much water could fall overnight, that one night that we were here, that tote was, I think, closer to 1,500 liters of water overnight, guys. Oh my goodness. And so if I'd have known that, I would have planned the septic tank. It would have been about 6 inches higher, and we would have planned that at the peak of the land here. Not that it made any difference, because the house was still high enough to have accepted that, and it would have only cost us a few extra pieces of pipe. No big deal, right? So that was kind of a miss thing. Is it causing us any problems? No. But what we are having to do is manage our land a little bit more. So we had the anapog all down. We're looking at how the water settles, how it flows, and where it pools, and then use gravel to lay in a base, and then the water will travel underneath the gravel. It does not travel through anapog, guys. It just doesn't do it. So again, we would have changed the position of the septic tank. Second was adding a drain to the output of our septic tank as it left. By the totes, guys. With the amount of rainfall that falls on this island, oh my goodness, that was a lot of rain. Okay, so errors and such that were done on the garage. Really, it just comes down to understanding the putty layer or the skim coat layer as it goes on, and how it differs from a sanded skim coat. Okay, so with our guys, they refer to it as putty. Okay, terminology may change in your location, etc., but that's why I call these posties instead of pillars. That's because that's what they call them. But on the finishing on the AAC, once I showed them how to do a troweling properly, then it went on properly. Okay, nice thick skim coat, go up, take off your excess or your edging, and then keep going at it. And that worked really well. But we're not going to go back over the garage and get that done. It's a garage, guys. What we did with the garage is we experimented with burying the postie inside the wall. Traditional Filipino home has the postie showing inside and outside the house. I did not want that because I want my end tables to be able to go right into the corner. Let's talk about the foundation wall or the stem wall. A couple of different ways we could have done this. We could have done what we did, which was the hollow block. We could have moved the tie beam up. In other words, had two tie beams. A lesser one down below. Once it's buried, right, guys? But the upper one. And then the slab could have sat on that. And then the third was, of course, just do a direct pour. Retrospect, I wish we'd have done the direct pour. We would still have to do the slopes like we did on the outside, but that was not a big deal at all and is commonplace here in the Philippines. What else would we have done? Well, let me get into this whole idea of chasing AAC walls. Now, I'm going to show you this. This is an internal chase, and I haven't got a problem with that. What I'm talking about is the classic Filipino way of putting electrical and water into the walls, which is chipping away at the outside, put the water inside the wall, and then finish. Seems like a monster waste of time, guys, to go and do all of that process when at the bare minimum you had to put your primary up inside the wall in between the postie, because you have to install your AAC onto a slab. This isn't hollow block. You can't do it the same way where you pour your slab afterwards in between the walls. Now, I suppose if we'd have done direct pour foundation walls, maybe we could have done it that way. But again, just saying, the way we did it, I think, is the way I would always do it. Now, we've gone through all of the groundbreaking on what bits to use, etc., and I'll just link those at the end here. But for me, the key one is that Forstner bit. I would bring, if you're coming from a Western country, that one bit that we had that arrived in the Billick Bayan box lasted really quite a long time. Compared to a chisel bit, no, not as long at all. However, you can buy the Forstner bits here. They didn't last as long, guys, here. Not as good a quality, I suspect, on the metal, etc. I would always do the internal drilling of the walls. I would always drill down inside the wall, put my wall plate on. And all that means is that there's a guy off to the side and all he does is prep blocks. I was that guy in this case, prepping the blocks to be put in so that, you know, all they had to do is slide it down, mount it, off they go. I think it worked wonderfully, guys. It was for switches where you had to come down from above. But again, all the guys did, by then we had the Forstner bit, drill down, have the pipe. It's all nice and floppy in there. And all they did was pull the pipe out, put the block on, slide it back down. Yep, it fits. Boom, off to the races. So I would not change anything there. And honestly, if we're going to do construction a little bit more Western, why not do it Western? To me, the whole purpose behind AAC was that you can go to your skim coat, maybe your superfine sanded skim coat if you wanted to, and then your putty layer, but whatever. The bottom line is you don't have to do, you know, a week's worth of splatter, splatter, splatter to you know, build out your wall and get it all flattened out. Kind of defeats the whole purpose, in my opinion, of going in there with a chase saw or even chip, 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 and do all of that to the walls, then have to fill them. Just do a hollow block project. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to me at all. AAC sizing. Am I happy with the outside walls? More than happy with the outside walls. Tough as nails, guys. No problems at all. And I think the other side, if you were to go to 6-inch on your outside walls, would be your dimensioning of your windows. But for internal walls, that is the number one thing I would change. I would do my internal walls as 6-inch. No question about it. I wouldn't be so fussy on my corners as long as they were going up straight, and then deal with the errors on the corners in your finishing layer. The amount of finishing, that would have been 1, 2, 3 corners that we would have had to dealt with versus a whole house. So no, I'm more than happy with what we did on the 4-inch, but internal walls I would have gone 6 for sure. And why are the guys looking at the chickens? I thought it was because, no, they're observing the real young ones to see if there's any fighting cocks in amongst them. Oh my goodness. Not something I would have thought of. Anyway, I digress. And I'll keep adding ands. I would consider metal studs, guys. I would consider metal studs. The reason is one of the subscribers had a good idea. Tile the whole floor, or you know, whatever order you need to do it in, and then take a couple of extra tiles that you've got, cut them up, and make them as wide as a stud plus the HardieFlex. And then that way the tiling that goes on the HardieFlex afterwards will go right down to the bottom. But that way you're not going to get water up on that metal stud, right? Not a bad idea. I like it. So yes, we would solidly consider that in the future. You got to remember that my whole reasoning behind this project is I've been around wood frame construction a lot, but I've never done a concrete project. So that's kind of how this was all coming about, right? But I do like the metal studs. We were thinking about it, but I was worried about the deterioration of the HardieFlex and the metal stud over time with, you know, potential water exposure, right? Anyway, that's my suggestion on all of that. We covered off the septic tank. We covered off the garage. One other thing we would have done is I think we would have broken up the slab that was already put out the garage in preparation for a link to the house. I would have broken that up so that we could have put our outdoor shower in place where, you know, if we're working in the gardens, we could use that washroom. And there is provision to be able to do that yet. However, I wish we'd have done that. It wouldn't have been as large, etc., etc. Oh, the totes, yes. Big, in my opinion. It saved us a lot of time and effort. They're not that expensive. They may feel like it, but with a little bit of planning, you'll be able to use them for decades. And that's what'll happen here with the garage. We're going to take that second tote, gang it up, and with it ganged on there, if we do get one of those 1,500 liter rainfalls, who cares? It'll collect the whole roof. Not a problem at all. And when I talk roof, I'm talking the garage, guys. Would we do things differently? Yes, and we will be. The plans have moved way more rapidly than Lynn and I expected, probably because of some of the COVID thing, but not too much because their lives have been pretty stable. But the longer term picture thing has kind of been merged into some of the thinking now. So yes, we are looking at a 6 to 8 unit studio condo up and down with a detached studio as well, which could be doubling as our place. Yeah, we would go a lot smaller, guys. If it was this piece of property and we were doing it all over again, I would have the garage and a carport. So the garage is utilized by the car when we're not here, and then the carport would have the dirty kitchen and the motorcycles can park there, right? Because there's always somebody visiting with a motorcycle. The house itself, maybe 40 square meters all total, including the decks. I think that would be somewhere around there, including that. We would be more than comfortable in 30 square meters. We're more than comfortable living in the garage right now with the attached CR. So yeah, I think that's where we would be. Now, remember, we are a single couple. We do not have children. And so our lifestyle is quite different than a lot of you. But we have been very comfortable the last 12 years or so in studio apartments, various locations, but mostly Angolese. There we go. Later, Gators.